Hi Vorifith, I am going to do a video update for you because I realised I'd missed out a technique that I use for making angled pieces but without having to cut all the way through the foam. See here, I wanted the front of the shins to have these angles on, but I didn't want them to be cut like all of these angles. There are a couple of pieces that require this technique. I'm building a suit. You can work out where you want to put those additions, but there they are. So I'll show you how you do it. Okay, let's just make that into a square block. Okay, so assuming that you've got your template and we actually want a square piece, of course this probably might be a shaped piece. We want to, basically this is the line here where we want the fold to be. Now we don't want to cut through the foam, so what I do is just mark some little lines down the side like that, and then I can see where I want that line to go by marking those. Ruler, line on the back. Okay, this line is now directly underneath that one. So what we do is we take our knife at an angle, cut in, but not all the way through the foam. We want about 2 mil just here, away from the underside of the foam. Cut through, keeping your knife nice and steady, at the same angle, not applying any more or less pressure. There we go. And then the same here. Just being very careful not to cut all the way through the foam. That'll do. And you can just peel that back. And now we have a nice groove on the underside. When you turn it over, all it requires is for it to be bent, and then you have a bent angle without that harsh line that you get from actually joining two pieces together. You can, if you like, heat this side with the heat gun before you glue it in place, because it's naturally going to want to try and pull itself out like so to its original shape. So I normally heat gun that a little tiny bit. It just softens it up so that the outside will then stretch a bit as you glue it in position. I'll not do that because you've seen how to heat gun, and then just apply a small line of glue right into the crease there. Push it together. That'll push the glue right through. Just help with the drying process. And there we go. Now you have an angled piece but with a nice round smooth edge. Hopefully that's helped you out further, that extra technique. Another little bit that I didn't add the other day, I've seen people, and I have myself, when making an angled piece. I made a tutorial of this earlier and I accidentally deleted it, so I'm just going to explain it rather than demonstrate it. It's not difficult to work out. Put two pieces together, you get an angle like so. In fact, ignore that. Here, I could have made this out of one piece of foam. I didn't. I kind of, in retrospect now, wish I had. I could have just made it out of one piece and heat gunned it into shape. It wouldn't have been that difficult. But I didn't. I did it out of sections. Now I heat gunned each part, bending it into shape, then gluing them together. Now these seams, because it's kind of difficult to get them to marry up perfectly, they didn't marry up too badly. I sanded them with a piece of sandpaper, just sanded those down. But by doing this, you sort of rough the foam up. It was what I call it, frays a little bit. So you get all these little bits of foam sticking up. Now, if you put your plaster dip over the top, that should sort of fill the gaps out and smooth it out a little bit. But it's not really going to bond that strong. It's not really going to force these little frayed bits to go down. So what I do is, as an example here, in fact, we just fray some foam up. You'll see what I mean. There we go. Now we've got bits sticking up. We want to sort of push those down into a nice flat surface. So again, I use the nozzle. This is why I like my nozzles to be nice and hot and be metal, is put some glue on and just smooth that over like so. Wet finger, a very wet finger, and then smooth that down flat. And then the hot glue should push those frayed bits down and glue them in place, and the glue obviously sets into the foam a little bit. It still looks like it's a bit textured, kind of is. I didn't apply a huge amount of glue. There we go. Let me just smooth that out. There, that's better. And now that should give a much flatter, cleaner surface to the piece of foam. There we go. And that's how you get rid of those frayed bits if you do decide to sand. I know some foams will lend nicely to sanding, some don't. Mine doesn't, so that's how I combated that. Now when you plaster dip over the top, you'll get a nice smooth finish. Hope that little tip helped out there. Get more of you sanding. Doesn't mean that then you need to start sanding every single edge, because then you'll end up with all these round edges. I think it's a little bit lazy. I think really you should try and perfect getting your pieces to marry together perfectly without having to do that. Like I said, although I did sand this shin around here, I didn't do a lot. I did a bit there, I can see it. I didn't do any there at all. I did a little bit there, a little bit there, none there, none there. You can still sort of see the texture, but from this distance I can't. It's only if I, on closer inspection. Hopefully those little tips have helped you out today, and I shall be doing a lighting tutorial next for those of you who feel that you can't approach the subject because you've never learnt any electronics. It's very simple, so I'm going to do a little tutorial on that for you in a moment. Thank you for watching, take care, 405.